The true spirit of conversation consists more in bringing out the cleverness of others than in showing a great deal of it yourself. He who goes away pleased with himself and his own wit is also greatly pleased with you. Most men would rather please than admire you. They seek less to be instructed, and even to be amused, than to be praised and applauded. The very essence of politeness is to take care that by our words and actions we make other people pleased with us as well as with themselves. That man is good who does good to others. If he suffers on account of the good he does, he is very good. If he suffers at the hands of those to whom he has done good, then his goodness is so great that it could be enhanced only by greater sufferings, and if he should die at their hands, his virtue can go no further. It is heroic, it is perfect. Not to be able to bear with all bad-tempered people with whom the world is crowded, shows that a man has not a good temper himself. There is no road too long to the man who advances deliberately and without undue haste. There are no honors too distant to the man who prepares himself for them with patience. No vice exists which does not pretend to be more or less like some virtue, and which does not take advantage of this assumed resemblance. That we seldom repent of talking too little and very often of talking too much is a maxim that everybody knows and nobody practices. A fool is an automaton, a machine with springs which turn him about always in one manner, and preserve his equilibrium. He is ever the same, and never changes. If you have seen him once, you have seen him at every moment and period of his life. He is at best but as the lowing ox or the whistling blackbird. He is fixed and obstinate, I may say, by nature. What appears least in him is his soul, that has neither activity nor energy, it reposes. The great charm of conversation consists less in the display of one's own wit and intelligence, than in the power to draw forth the resources of others. He who leaves you after a long conversation, pleased with himself and the part he has taken in the discourse, will be your warmest admirer. Men do not care to admire you, they wish you to be pleased with them. They do not seek for instruction or even amusement from your discourse, but they do wish you to be made acquainted with their talents and powers of conversation, and the true man of genius will delicately make all who come in contact with him feel the exquisite satisfaction of knowing that they have appeared to advantage. The same common sense which makes an author write good things, makes him dread they are not good enough to deserve reading. We should only endeavor to think and speak correctly ourselves, without wishing to bring others over to our taste and opinions. This would be too great an undertaking. Many people perceive the merit of a manuscript which is read to them, but will not declare themselves in its favor until they see what success it has in the world when printed, or what intelligent men will say about it. They do not like to risk their opinion, and they want to be carried away by the crowd, and dragged along by the multitude. Then they say that they were amongst the first who approved of that work, and the general public shares their opinion. 32. Such men lose the best opportunities of convincing us that they are intelligent, clever, and first-rate critics, and can really discover what is good and what is better. A fine work falls into their hands. It is an author's first book, before he has got any great name. There is nothing to prepossess anyone in his favor, and by applauding his writings one does not court or flatter the great. Zealots, you are not required to cry out, "This is a masterpiece." Human intelligence never went farther, the human speech cannot soar higher. Henceforward we will judge of no one's taste but by what he thinks of this book. Such exaggerated and offensive expressions are only employed by postulants for pensions or benefices, and are even injurious to what is really commendable and what one wishes to praise. Why not merely say, "That's a good book"? It is true you say it when the whole of France has approved of it, and foreigners as well as your own countrymen, when it is printed all over Europe, and has been translated into several languages, but then it is too late. When a man has once got into office, he neither makes use of his reason nor of his intelligence to regulate his behavior and manners towards others, but shapes them according to his office and his position. This is the cause of his forgetfulness, pride, arrogance, harshness, and ingratitude. We can recognize the dawn and the decline of love by the uneasiness we feel when alone together. Out of difficulties grow miracles. The sweetest of all sounds is that of the voice of the woman we love. Those who make the worst use of their time are the first to complain of its shortness. Two persons cannot long be friends if they cannot forgive each other's little failings. All of our unhappiness comes from our inability to be alone. Children have neither a past nor a future. Thus they enjoy the present, which seldom happens to us. We perceive when love begins and when it declines by our embarrassment when alone together. We must laugh before we are happy, for fear we die before we laugh at all. At the beginning and at the end of love, the two lovers are embarrassed to find themselves alone. The people in Paris commonly ape the court, but they do not always know how to imitate it. They by no means resemble it in those agreeable and flattering outward civilities with which some courtiers, and particularly the ladies, affably treat a man of merit, who possesses nothing but merit. A serious-minded author is not obliged to trouble his head about all the foolish sayings, the obscene remarks, and bad words that are uttered, or about the stupid constructions which some men put on certain passages of his writings, much less ought he to suppress them. He is convinced that let a man be never so careful in his writings, the insipid jokes of wretched buffoons are an unavoidable evil, since they often only turn the best things into ridicule. Some people, after having read a book, quote certain passages which they do not thoroughly understand, and moreover completely change their character by what they put in of their own. Those passages, so mutilated and disfigured that they are nothing else but their own expressions and thoughts, they expose to censure, maintain them to be bad, and the world agrees with them, but the passage such critics think they quote, and in reality do not, is not a bit the worse for it.